Welcome back to my channel Knowledge Chronicle.
Imagine a world without honeybees, without forests, without clean air or fertile soil. Sounds scary, right? Well, this is what's at stake when we talk about biodiversity loss. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most important yet often overlooked topics: biodiversity conservation. Why should we care? What are the real benefits? And how exactly can we protect life on Earth? Stay tuned. We'll break everything down with clear examples, interesting facts, and practical solutions. So why should we conserve biodiversity? Let's begin with the big question. Why is biodiversity so important that it needs conservation? Well, it's a question that really gets to the heart of our relationship with nature. The answers, interestingly, can be grouped into three main arguments. First, there's the narrowly utilitarian reason. Second, the broadly utilitarian reason. And third, the ethical argument. Let's break these down a bit. Let's start with the narrowly utilitarian reasons. These are, simply put, the direct benefits we humans get from nature. For example, food cereals like wheat and rice, pulses like lentils, fruits, vegetables. All of these actually come from plant biodiversity. It's something we often take for granted, but it's absolutely vital for our survival. So firewood and fiber. Let's talk about that for a moment. In many rural areas, firewood from forests is honestly still the main fuel source for cooking and heating. And fiber from plants like cotton and jute is widely used for making clothing and other materials. When it comes to construction, materials like timber, bamboo, and even mud are all actually products of biological sources. And, well, for industrial goods, items such as tannins used in leather dyes for textiles, resins for varnishes, perfumes, and lubricants. All of these come from natural resources. Now comes a surprising fact. About 1/4 of all modern medicines come from plants. From painkillers to cancer drugs, biodiversity really does save lives. And also, around 25,000 plant species are used in traditional medicines by indigenous people across the globe. And here's a powerful concept: bioprospecting. This is the exploration of biodiversity at the genetic and molecular level to find new economically valuable products, like drugs, enzymes, or biofuels. For example, a compound called Taxol, extracted from the Pacific yew tree, is used to treat breast cancer. Imagine how many more such treasures are hidden in rainforests we are destroying today. 2 broadly utilitarian reasons. These include the ecosystem services that nature provides us, often for free. Let's take a few powerful examples. The Amazon rainforest, often called the lungs of the planet, produces 20% of the world's oxygen via photosynthesis. Think about it. How much would it cost to generate that oxygen using machines? A single oxygen cylinder in a hospital costs thousands of rupees. Pollination is something that bees, birds, butterflies, and even bats help with. And honestly, without this, we wouldn't have any fruits, grains, or vegetables. It's kind of amazing to think about. Plus, things like soil fertility, water purification, climate regulation, and even the natural breakdown of waste. All of these are services that ecosystems provide us, often without us even noticing. Then there are the aesthetic and psychological benefits. A walk in the forest, hearing birdsong in the morning, or just seeing flowers bloom in spring. These experiences don't really have a price tag, but they bring such emotional and mental peace. Now let's talk about ethical reasons. This is the third point. Finally, there's the ethical argument. We share this earth with millions of species, from microbes all the way to elephants. Many of these species don't directly benefit us economically, but honestly, they have a right to exist. Every species has intrinsic value, and we humans, we have a moral responsibility to protect them, not just for ourselves, but for future generations too. Would it be fair if, say, our grandchildren never get to see a tiger or a coral reef or even a snow leopard? So how do we conserve biodiversity? Now that we understand why biodiversity is important, the next question really is, how do we go about conserving it? So there are, 2 main strategies for conserving biodiversity: in situ, which is on-site conservation, and ex situ, which is off-site conservation. First, in situ conservation. This is all about protecting biodiversity right in its natural habitat. Basically, It means protecting entire ecosystems where different species live and interact. As we often say, save the forest to save the tiger. But honestly, since resources are limited, it's just not possible to protect everything. That's why scientists have identified what are called biodiversity hotspots. These are regions with really high species richness and endemism, which means species found only in that region. Originally, 25 hotspots were identified, but now there are 34 worldwide. So, India is home to 3 major biodiversity hotspots: the Western Ghats and Sri Lanka, the Indo-Burma region, and the Himalayas. Even though these hotspots cover only about 2% of Earth's land, they actually shelter over 50% of plant species and, many endangered animals. India also protects its biodiversity through 14 biosphere reserves, 90 national parks, and 448 wildlife sanctuaries. And here's a beautiful cultural insight. In many parts of India, sacred groves, patches of forest protected due to religious belief, still exist. Places like the Khasi Hills of Meghalaya, Aravalli Hills of Rajasthan, Western Ghats of Karnataka, and Basta in Madhya Pradesh all preserve rare species thanks to local traditions. Second, ex situ conservation. That's conserving outside natural habitats. This includes, a few important approaches. Zoological parks for animals, botanical gardens for plants, and wildlife safari parks. So, this method is actually used when species are just way too endangered to survive in the wild. For example, the cheetah went extinct in India, but is now being reintroduced through captive breeding. And cryopreservation lets us store gametes, like sperms and eggs, of endangered species for future reproduction. Tissue culture, allows plant propagation from a single cell. Plus, seed banks preserve seeds of useful plants for really long periods, basically acting as a genetic insurance policy for the future. Global cooperation is key. Biodiversity conservation is not just India's problem, it's a global issue. Back in 1992, the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro led to the Convention on Biological Diversity, where countries pledged to protect biodiversity and use it sustainably. In 2002, at the World Summit on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg, 190 countries committed to reduce biodiversity loss significantly by 2010. Though the target was missed, it really highlighted the urgent need for international cooperation. So now conserving biodiversity is not just about saving cute animals or trees. It's actually about securing oxygen, food, medicine, climate economy, and our very survival. From forests to fungi, from whales to wildflowers, every species matters. And it all starts with awareness. Your one like, share, and subscribe will help us create more valuable content. Stay curious, stay aware. This is Knowledge Chronicle signing off.